We're going to move into our next presentation with Nasir Sobhani, who is also known as the street's barber. And I'm very well aware of the irony of me standing here talking to you about barbers and haircuts. I know it's a thing for other people, so just work with me. Nas has earned his affectionate title by spending his time taking to the streets of Melbourne, offering free haircuts and shaves to the homeless and less fortunate. His inspirational story of compassion and generosity has received attention around Australia and global attention, and he was one of 5 people to be profiled as part of the Kenneth Cole Courageous Class campaign in New York, which celebrates individuals who have overcome obstacles in their life to become inspiring role models for other people in their lives. With an exceptional ability to connect marginalised people with the greater community and providing a voice to the voiceless, Nash shares the unique stories of the homeless that he encounters on social media platforms, reaching far and wide. Strongly spiritual, he believes in using your natural talents to be charitable and then to pass that on and help those less privileged regardless of their backgrounds. In the COVID at-home era, Nas tells me that he has become invested in home cooking and healthy eating, focusing on making food from scratch and using whole foods to make up his meals, from sauces to plant-based milk to mains and desserts. And I'm sure he also gets his products from Woolworths. Slip it in every time I can. I just got to keep him happy. But I'm sure he does. Despite all of our deliberate, different religious and spiritual beliefs, he exemplifies the notion that ultimately we're all one. And as I'm sure you'll see, he is the perfect embodiment of all that we stand for with the Social Good Summit. It also has to be said, he has awesome tattoos. It is time for the street's barber. He is the saint of scissors. He is the king of clippers. He is the head honcho of haircuts. Please put your hands together and welcome Nas Sobhani.
That was an amazing intro, and I'm so honored. Also, thank you so much for allowing me to come talk and hang out with you guys today. I think just hearing the lineup and who's been able to present, this year or in the past years, and I just feel like almost inadequate to be on that lineup. But nonetheless, I'm hoping that I'm able to share my journey, my story, and hopefully resonate with some people in the room. So basically, for me, it all started off with the fact that I grew up in an amazing family. And when I'm saying an amazing family, I really mean an amazing family. This family was just full of philanthropists, physicians, CEOs, diplomats, and the list goes on, UN officials. And they were doing great things within their industry. But it wasn't so much just working in a regular company or in a medical office or even the UN offices in New York. They were spread out to far remote areas around the world. So whether it was like rural parts, in Asia or parts of West Africa outside of the main cities or somewhere in the West Indies. I myself was born and raised in Japan. We were always doing stuff in such a different way, but trying to embrace other people's cultures and then incorporate it to our own to show that we are one. Because we come from a religious background called the Baha'i faith. And the Baha'is, the main thing about Baha'is is to really, really enhance and show that there is oneness of mankind, no matter what your faith is, no matter what your gender is, no matter what your color, no matter what your belief. We all come from one source. And so by going to different places and really embracing other people's communities and cultures, you're really pushing that sense of oneness. Now, I basically grew up, like I said, with my family doing that, doing phenomenal things, and I was feeling so insecure always, like thinking, I need to be like that. And the reason why I felt insecure mostly is because when you're yourself and you're trying so hard to be someone else, look at how far away you are from yourself. So that's when you start to lose yourself, and that's what happened to me. I started to lose myself because I was so addicted to trying to be like someone I wasn't. Even though that they were great people, it wasn't just inspiration, it was like a drive to just completely neglect my passions, my desires. And it led me to a bad downfall, unfortunately, because when you're feeling insecure and you don't really have a lot of self-esteem and a lot of confidence within yourself. You start doing things that you normally may not have done if you're feeling really grounded or feeling really assured within yourself. And for myself, what that was drugs. I never grew up in a family that actually would ever even bring a glass of wine into my house, because as Baha'is, you're supposed to stay completely sober to try to not take yourself from your true sense of self as much as you can. And for me, I never was experiencing, substances in my household. And so for me to do that and get into it, it was like for the first time I felt like, oh, finally I'm actually good at something, And I mean, anyone can really get high or drunk. It doesn't take much. But for me, it was just something that I was like, okay, finally I found my thing, and it was just a way of trying to find a fake form of confidence on something that wasn't going to help anyone. And so what happened was I went from using drugs and drowning all my insecurities and my lack of self-esteem, and then I'd sober up and I'd feel such shame. And I'd really, really hate myself again, which would lead me to get high again, just so I can forget. And then after that, I would go back to being sober and hating everything, and it was a horrible cycle. And I couldn't really get out of it. And throughout this time, I would always cut hair for my friends and family, and it was a lot of fun, because I really enjoyed it. But every time my friends or my family would be like, you should cut hair, I would get so upset. Because I'm like, is that all you guys think I can do? You guys don't think I can become a physician? You don't think I can work for the UN? You don't think I can do this, this, and that? But little did I know, they just really saw something that I was good at, and they really tried to encourage me, but I couldn't see it. And so with my drug addiction, it actually got really bad to the point where I actually had to, unfortunately, check myself into a rehab center. But it was the best thing I've ever done in my life, because that was about 10 years ago. I'm going to be maybe 2 weeks shy of 10 years now, March 23rd, 2012. Yeah. Now, thank you so much. So in rehab, I was able to address a lot of my issues. And one of the things was my lack of self-esteem and my insecurities about who I was. And I was trying so hard to be like someone I wasn't. And so as a result, I really started to reflect on my passions and what I really like to do. And I was really, really adamant on cutting hair. And I was like, you know what, guys? I'm going to cut hair. I'm going to do this. Finally, I'm going to actually live life for myself. And I'm going to fulfill my desires, my passions. And so I went home and I told my mom, I think I'm going to cut hair. And she goes, Nas, so long as you do whatever you do in the spirit of service, we'll always be proud. Okay? And so she said those words, and it really stuck with me. So long as you do something in the spirit of service, we'll always be proud. I moved to Australia a few months after rehab, and I tried getting a job somewhere, but I couldn't. No one wanted to give a hairdressing apprenticeship or a barber apprenticeship to a person on a visa. So I worked in a cafe, and I would just go watch people cut hair for free for hours, for almost 2 years, sweeping up, doing whatever I had to do. And I was able to eventually work my way into a barber shop. And then I started getting customers at the barber shop. And actually, the person who came with me today, he was actually one of my first customers many years ago. So it's pretty sweet how that bond has still stuck. But it was crazy, because the whole time that I was cutting hair at the barber shop, I was definitely the worst. Okay? Like, I had no experience. I used kitchen scissors and beard trimmers all my life. And then I started coming into, a desire of starting to learn. But what happened was, I wasn't to the level anybody else was. However, I was getting equally as booked out as everyone else. But that's because I wasn't as good, but I tried to really emphasize and push and focus on the person in the chair and make sure that I would give them the best service that I could and make them feel like they were my best friend, the most important person in my life at the moment. It wasn't just about the haircut. But that's how I would overcompensate the fact that I wasn't able to cut as well. And as a result, people kept coming back. And I realized right then and there, there's a special thing that we have as barbers and hairdressers. We have the opportunity of being of service for someone every single time they sit in our chair. We have the option of making them leave much happier every time. And let's say we go through 10 haircuts a day. We have the chance to make 10 people feel better every single day. It's an opportunity. They're coming to us. We don't have to go seek them. It's pretty powerful. On my way to work every day, I used to always pass this homeless guy. He used to always just sit down, head between his legs, and I'd always walk by saying, would you like a coffee or a muffin? And he'd be like, yeah, sure, and he'd put his hand out. Never really looked at me. For 6 months, this would go on. Until one day when I started to realize I'm getting really booked out of the barbershop and people are really bonding with me and I'm really bonding with them. And it's a really, really beautiful connection. I was like, why don't I ask this guy if I can cut his hair one day? And I looked at him one day and I said, would you like a haircut? And he looked at me the first time in 6 months properly. Like, sure, he would glance at me and stuff, but he never fully connected with my eyes. And he says, sure, my brother, I would love that. I've let myself go for so many months because I hated who I was when I looked in the mirror. And that really resonated with me because I remember the days when I was using drugs and how much I hated myself whenever I would look in the mirror as well. And so we sat down on the side of the street, on a rock actually, and we set up my whole kit, started giving him a haircut, giving him a shave. Now, mind you, he was really Australian, so he asked him, what haircut would you like? He goes, just give me whatever, just make sure you keep me ratty, mate, you know? And so, yeah, we gave him a nice little mohawk with a rat tail and shaved his face. People were walking by, they were in tears. They were loving it. He was confident. He was hollering at people, hey, it's the best barber in Melbourne, blah, blah, blah. And so much confidence. He looked himself in the mirror afterwards, then he looked at me and goes, I can't wait to hopefully see my daughter soon so she can see what her dad looks like, okay? And that was fantastic. But then he said something powerful. He goes, thank you for making me feel human again. And it just hit me right there. I was trying for so many years to become a barber, something was missing. I felt like I was doing something right. I was doing everything that I should do. I was still sober. I was healthy. I was doing my best to, perfect my craft, but something was just not fitting for me. But it wasn't until I did that I realized, oh my God, that piece of the puzzle has finally been placed. So long as you do something in the spirit of service. I use my craft to serve. And everything changed for me. I started going out on the streets once a week and I started giving haircuts to homeless men and women, going to marginalized communities, going into children's hospitals. We've actually now gone into prisons. And we keep doing this. And I'm using my craft as an avenue to serve people. That's all it is. My purpose is to serve. Cutting hair is my avenue. I feel like we've all got something that we're good at. And for me, I realized the purpose of life, at like 27 years old. The purpose of life is really, really simple, and it's 2 parts. First part, you have to fulfill your destiny. And your destiny is to recognize your talent, your skill, anything that you're good at. And you can't say you're not good at something, guys. There has to be something that you're good at. If you're not good at it, there has to be something that you're passionate about. If you're not passionate, there has to be something that you've been taught, and you're able to really, really understand it well. You don't have to be the best. But once you recognize that talent, that skill, that gift that you've been blessed with, first, you're fulfilling your destiny by recognizing that. Then the second part is to use that gift, that talent, that gift into benefiting others, to serve people. Whether it's one person or a million different people, doesn't make a difference. Because when you start doing that and using that skill to benefit other people, you wake up in the mornings and your life has purpose. And if you switch those words around, that is the purpose of life. It's to live a life of purpose. We overcomplicate that term. So, I present to you guys now to really figure out what is it that you're good at, what is it that you're passionate about, what is it that you love. Why are you here in this world? To fulfill that destiny and to use that into serving other people. Service is a really, really big concept, but you can also simplify it again. And to be of service is to just make sure whoever comes into your path or into your space will leave better, will benefit from that exchange. So live a life of purpose, guys. It's so, so simple. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hey. Thank you. I got to show my mom that for sure, so thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Thank you.